Hello and welcome everyone, this is Rowan from Playerk Gaming, and today we're back in SimplePlanes. If you watched the last episode, you may remember that we built the fuselage, we got the jets, we got the inlets, and as far as I'm aware, I took the fuel out of the body of the plane, because we're going to be putting that somewhere else. Today we're going to be doing control surfaces and wings. So, without further ado, let's just get into it. I think on the back, since this design is going to kind of be similar to the F4 Phantom, we're going to use flaps on the back, like canards on the back. I still can't remember what they're called. But, in theory, these should give us a lot of maneuverability without having to sacrifice extra space. That's the hope, anyway. If I put a horizontal stabilizer here, will that work? Yes. Very, very good. So now, I'm not going to cut this part out in case people need to know how to do this. So I'm going to take this off and replace it for a structural wing, because those are more sturdy. And with these, you don't have to worry about accidentally adding control surfaces. So we're just going to make the proper shape here. And people that are new to SimplePlanes probably won't know that there is a overhaul mod built into the game for XML modding. That I'm going to be using later. I already used it here to change the scale of these jets. And for these, I'm going to set this to high speed, set this input to pitch, range of motion down to like 20. This should mean that when I press, or when I use what I would normally use for pitch, it does that, which is exactly what we wanted. Now, we're going to add the wings, like the proper wings. Now, since it's going to be a multi-role fighter, I'm going to give it delta wings that are placed very, very low on the cockpit, or on the fuselage, and no dihedral. This means they're more roll unstable, which is good for fighters. I'm actually going to have a segmented wing section like this, put on another wing. That means I can make it just a little bit like that to make it more familiar. And also sweep it back a bit extra. Now those look like true Phantom wings. Now we can check our center of mass and center of lift are in the wrong spots, but we can fix that in a minute. Now we're going to want to add our vertical stabilizer up here. And I think since we don't want to have it too much F4 Phantom E, so it's not like a copy, we're going to want to have it angled like this. We'll put two of them, similar to what's on the F-35, or the F-22 for that matter. We're also going to edit the shapes so they're a bit smaller so they don't look as silly. Like that. Then we can just copy that one over. So we have our tail, our pitch control surfaces, our wings, our yaw, but no roll control surfaces, which is about to be fixed. We add one here, and add one here. This should be all we need for our roll. And now we can add our landing gear, which that will let us have a bit of a test flight, see how well it flies. I remember the F4 Phantom had wing landing gear, so we'll apply that, then have landing gear on the front. Now an important part of the landing gear on the front is going to be its turning. So it's going to be able to turn, and that means that if I do this, if I use yaw, that will turn the front wheel. This gives us very good moving around while we're on the ground. So now if we attempt to take off, we're pitch unstable. I have to be constantly holding pitch, the W, so it would pitch down to stop it from doing what it's doing, which is not good. So we have to fix that. Right now, the problem is center of mass is too close to the center of lift. So we take the fuel out of these wings and put fuel up in the front, but not too far forward, or else it will be unstable yet again, and nose heavy. Now when we attempt to take off, it should fly much better. There we go. It can now fly properly, decent roll. Its pitch is kind of weird because the wings are built wrong, which is a simple fix. Since these big wings here don't have the need for control surfaces, we can swap them for structural wings, which will make them more stiff. Now if I take a structural wing, we want to edit its shape until it's the exact same as the one I already have, so we don't lose anything from that shape. Let me think for a second, because if this is wing 2, and I switch this to wing 2, will it maintain its shape? Yes, it will. That's good. That's very, very handy. Very, very dandy, even. So if I throw these out and put this back on, essentially what I just did is I switched the original wing for a structural wing by XML editing it. So now it should be more stiff, so our pitch should be much better. Let's take a look. Yeah, our pitch is a lot better, which means we can do the Cobra. Our pitch up is good, our pitch down isn't. Although I do want to fix this here, offset, which means it's also offset there. So rolling's still decent. The pitching is actually not very good because it's kind of in bursts, which is definitely not what we want. So let's see if we can make a successful landing. I'm going 700 right now and I don't have any air brakes, which is not good. So I guess we're just gonna have to make a not so soft landing. It was actually decent. We use our yaw, we can slow it down while using less runway. Look at that. That was a not very good landing, but considering that I didn't have air brakes, it was actually kind of decent. Now that we have that out of the way, we can make it the pitch better. So right now, these aren't working very well. So I'm going to take this off and have these serve as purely stabilizers. And then I can put pitch control on the wings and the jets, which may be confusing, so let me show you. I take the jets and move them outward, and then take some hinge rotators here. We need 2 of them, but right now they're in the wrong direction. So we should be able to do that. Put the jet here, but we're not done yet. We need another one on top of the original. There we go. We put that here. Copy that. Copy this. And get the jet put on here. Which means if we use VTOL, it should look a bit weird on the back, but that's fine. Okay, they are moving around, but not doing anything to the jets, which means we're gonna have to make new jets and have them pre-attached. But first of all, we're gonna have to solve these. So we set this to Oops, skipped over it. Yaw. And yaw again. And then these get switched to pitch. This way, the jets can move, altering the direction of the thrust. This should be much, much better. And I'm putting a heavy emphasis on should because it might not. Let me get this out of the way because it takes a while. Now with all of that out of the way, I want to show you guys something about XML modding. Before that, you might have noticed that I've made a few changes. I've added rotators here to give these canards. I have air brakes that are serving as, well, air brakes. I switched up the back end because the old design was not working. I switched it for one medium power jet and two Blasto BFE 300s, which are the most powerful and fuel consuming jets in the game. These use VTOL as their input, which means when I use VTOL, that's essentially like a power boost. Now, about the XML editing thing, you might notice that my center of mass is very, very far back, which in SimplePlanes is bad. You want your center of mass to be in front of your center of lift. And the problem is the jets, they weigh a lot. So I'm going to set, well, if you're having this problem, you go here, look for mass scale, set it to 0. That jet now weighs nothing. Then if I do that with the other jet, that also now weighs nothing, putting us back in balance. With XML modding, you can do that to change the weight, to very fine-tune your jet to make it as good as you want, and as balanced as you want as well. Normal scale here determines how big a piece is. So you can see right now, these jets, you might notice, are shrunk. Without them being shrunk like that, they look like this. And they definitely don't look like that. You can also go into Engine, set your power multiplier and exhaust scale as high as you'd like, as well as your exhaust color. So you can make your afterburner as big as you want, and you can make your jet engine like 8 times as powerful. Just don't set it too high because the game doesn't like that. So, let's give it a flight. Right now we're only going to be engaging our normal jet here, which is definitely enough to fly. It's just nothing extraordinary. It also doesn't chug fuel all that much. So right now it has decent maneuverability, good rolling, but it's nothing exceptional, to be honest. But once I use VTOL over here, that activates the Blasto BFE 300s, brings us into Mach 1, Mach 2. Can we hit Mach 3? We might actually be able to. No, we cap at nearly 3,000 kilometers an hour. It's now the control surfaces are much more sensitive, meaning rolling, pitching, doing yaw, feels almost as if it is in fast forward mode. We are still at Mach 2 as we're approaching the runway. This is fine, because we're very, very far away from the runway at the moment. I'm actually going to set my normal jet, not my super jets, up to its highest power setting. Highest throttle. So we can get a bit more speed before we approach the runway, so we don't undershoot. So I'm going to cut my speed, get my wheels out, so I can actually hit the ground without exploding my aircraft. And then I'm going to engage the air brakes if I'm getting too fast still. And I will do that in just a moment. You can see, as the air brakes engage, they flare out. This is used on another plane that's in the game normally. I came in with not a very good angle. Oh, looks like while I was editing the plane, it actually reversed it to a point where the front wheel wasn't able to turn. Second of all, I would like to talk about yaw in this plane. This applies to all aircraft in this game, unless if you're using a gyroscope or cyclic or some other way of using yaw. It's not very good. If you're using normal control surfaces, it's bad. It does this. It just kind of doesn't work. Even if I set it to max power, which makes the control surfaces extra sensitive, when I yaw, it doesn't do anything. So to fix that, also right now, if you look at the fuel right here, you can see it absolutely chugs fuel when it's in emergency power mode. That's because we're running 2 high power, high fuel consumption jets at the same time, along with 1 medium jet, meaning we'll be using a lot of fuel, but we'll have a lot of extra power. This is if you need like a rush mission, since this is a multi-role fighter. If, say, bombers are invading, or you're getting in a dogfight, those are the moments when you'd want to use this. Unfortunately, though, this aircraft does not have PSM, post-stall maneuvers, which allows it to do flips in the spot, the Cobra maneuver that you might have heard of, any of those very fancy kind of maneuvers and stuff. This plane cannot achieve because it does not have PSM. I tried earlier to have PSM. That is why I had rotators on my jets, but it just wasn't working. And that is why you don't see any PSM now. If you're looking for a channel that has a lot of videos with very good PSM and someone who actually knows how to build really good aircraft in SimplePlanes, I recommend you look up, I think he's called Guy Folk SP. I'll put a link to his channel in the comment, or in the pinned comment, yeah. But before we worry about that, we have to finish our aircraft. So we want this to be turnable. There we go. Which means now I should be able to turn like that. Yep. And let's see, what else do we need? We have our propulsion, our wings, our control surfaces, air brakes. Ah, yes, I forgot to mention, I made a parachute. It's right here on the back. And I'll go max power right now so I can show you what it does. So when I engage the parachute, it doesn't lower the speed because I'm using my very powerful jets. But once I turn off my Blasto BFE 300s, it slows down the speed significantly. So much so, I may not even be able to land, but I think I'll be able to. I'm going to turn up my VTOL thrusters, or my BFE 300s here. Now this is not how parachutes are supposed to be used. Let me show you where they are supposed to be used. This would be a normal parachute scenario. You're leading for a landing, hit the brakes, you realize, oh no, you're going too fast, the air brakes, if you engage them, won't be enough. Or if you're on a short runway, you'd open up the parachute, it slows you down significantly. So much so that it was actually engaged in the wrong spot. It slowed me down so much that I actually crashed. Now, this is all for today's video. In the next one, we'll be going, which will be the next episode, we'll be going over, like the wing loading, so mainly weapons, possibly a couple bomb bays or missile bays, and external fuel tanks, so our plane can last a bit longer. After that, we'll continue on to fine-tuning and all that stuff until we have the perfect multi-role fighter. Hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please consider subscribing and clicking the notification bell. If you have any ideas for other series, other ideas for things to do in SimplePlanes, anything else, put them in the comments. I hope you liked it. Goodbye.